And we're back at it again. I hope you're having a great week and having a good time with it. I'm Marty with Warehouse and Operations as a Career. Last week we talked a little about the positions of the lead and the supervisor. I really enjoyed all the messages and questions that were sent in this week, and it's so cool that so many of us are interested in our jobs and where they can take us. A question was sent in about goals and planning. The individual asked, how can I plan and/or how do I set goals at my job when everything's up to my boss? He went on to say, I know that sounds a little negative, but I don't mean it to be. Well, as complicated as goals and planning sounds, it's really simple and we can control them. It's actually up to us, and really us alone, whether we reach them or not. I think the easiest way to start planning our goals is to start with really the biggest one. What do we want to do with our lives and our careers? I think of it as kind of the end result. I always wanted to be able to do exactly what I wanted to do when I was 55. Now, I didn't hit my goal exactly by the time I wanted to, but I didn't miss it by all that much either. Once we know where we want to end up, it makes it easier to map out how to get there. Think of it as planning a long trip. First, we have to know our destination. Let's think of all the next steps as kind of short-term goals. Now, we know we'll need our vehicle and gas. We head out of the neighborhood on the streets that take us to the highway, and we map out all the turns needed to get us where we're headed. Our career path can be planned out very much the same way. I mean, we know what we love doing, and we know we're doing it to earn money. If we know how much money we want to earn, we can apply ourselves, get the education or experience that we need, and ask others questions. Hang out with those that can help us or teach us. Now, of course, there's going to be stops along the way, and we'll adjust our course as needed, just like we can and will on our trip. So we've got an operations job. That can be our first goal. We know what we enjoy doing, right? Our next goal can be, let's say we want to be in the top 25% at whatever it is we're doing. If we're in the production or productivity environments, it's pretty easy to gauge how we're coming along because they're tracked by metrics or percentages. If we're in a general labor field or sanitation or maybe a maintenance field, anything that's not tracked by our WMS or warehouse management system will stand out by our knowledge of our position. Our next goal could be to earn the additional incentive pay that can be associated with our positions. If we're a loader or a forklift driver, maybe an order selector, that next step may be easily defined for us. In a non-tracked position, we'll learn everything that's around us. You know, those tasks that touch ours, and we're going to be sure our management teams know what all we've learned also. We can identify that next step or job that we'll need to know to achieve all the experience needed to be the best at the position that we've got our sights on or our target. I was once asked by an executive vice president where I wanted to end up within the organization. I was a dry warehouse manager at the time and told him I wanted to be a VP of operations. Of course, his first question was, why didn't I want to be a president of my own facility? I told him I decided a long time ago when I was unloading trucks that I wanted to retire as a VP of operations because I loved being involved in the day-to-day of the operations, working closely with the crews and the product. I never had an interest in the sales, financials, or merchandising side of the company. I'd researched what the VP position entailed and what its earnings could be and decided that's what I wanted to do. I worked with him over the next 10 years. He became a president of his own house, and I accomplished my goal as VP of operations within the organization. We both achieved our goals, and I don't think he ever really understood why I didn't reach any further than I did. I saw it as we both were doing what we loved to do. We each can set our own goals, and it's our responsibility to plan and execute our actions to accomplish them. Our bosses honestly don't control anything regarding us reaching them. As hard as it can be to accept, it's really all on us. Buy you a little composition book and write out your goals so you can look at them each week. You can add to them as things change, and it's easy to plan out your weeks, months, quarterly, or yearly accomplishments. I've kept one for years, and it's helped me achieve what I've wanted to do in my career. You know, I found a really good article at mindtools.com that I found really interesting. I'll include it in today's show notes on the website for you, and there's literally hundreds of articles on goals and planning online. Check them out. They'll help explain planning much better than I can here today. Last week, we were talking about coming from an hourly position and taking that first step into management, and we discussed a few of the pros and cons of the move. We had a good time learning from others that had already made the decision and had taken that next step. I reached out to a young gentleman I met that just recently had been promoted from an unloading position into a lumper lead role. We had some really great talks, and he offered to let us check in with him over the next several months as he learns the position and faces the challenges that any new position could bring with it. Corey, welcome to the WAOC podcast, sir.
Thank you, Marty. First, I'd like to say how honored I am to be a part of WAOC and a guest on the show.
Outstanding. We love having you. So tell us a bit about yourself and how you made your way into the warehouse industry.
Well, Marty, first, my name's Corey Tarr, and about 15 years ago, I worked the summer at a produce warehouse. I was a stacker, stacking 50 to 100-pound bags of potatoes on pallets, just watching how busy it was. As a 15-year-old with energy, it was just exciting and intriguing. I remember the excitement of getting my worker's permit filled out so I could start my first payroll job, and it was here in this industry. And from then on, since that first job, I went back and forth from the U.S. Army to warehouse to construction to warehouse until I finally decided, stop messing around and give this 110%. And I did, and here I am today with a career.
That's really interesting, Corey. And, I've heard a lot of people talk about it. It's a physical job. How much money you can actually save from a gym membership just by being in the industry. Well, I'm glad that you landed on the warehouse side and instead of the construction side. Let's see, you just accepted a position as a lead, taking that first step into a leadership role. Can you share how that came about?
Honestly, with luck and ambition, I pushed myself to work productive and safe. And a couple of really good men, my supervisor at the company I worked for, and men that worked for my company from out of town, they noticed. And one day, a fellow warehouse for the company I worked for was in a bit of trouble. They were short-staffed, and I volunteered to travel up there, and I gave a helping hand. Mostly, I lead by example, and honestly, I believe that's how I became a lead.
Very good. And, we talk a lot here at WAOC about making sure your management knows what you're interested in, making sure that they know that you have goals and stuff. That's a great story. Speaking of goals, I assume you have some goals and a plan put together. Could you share with us how it came to be and really how it's going?
My plan at this point is to learn as much as possible to help as many as possible. I got promoted to lead in that very warehouse I volunteered for. I'm stepping in slow, learning the techniques, the different safety areas, and kind of filling out the expectations of the customer, building trust with the fellow employees. I lead by showing them I have the know-how. My idea of a good work environment is safe and productive, but you always got to be safe.
You do. Safety is one of the largest components of what it is that we do. And, you mentioned some of the things that you've learned. It's a daily thing, just like you just mentioned, of learning. So have you ran into anything already that you would say is surprising or that challenged you?
Yeah, just adjusting to the new facility, the new personalities. There's always going to be a different personality. Building and bringing the new employee in. We're still looking for employees right now and trying to show that everyone is very important and that I'm there when they need me. Being a team together, that gets the trucks in and gets them out safely and quickly. Now, whenever you're working, that's what you want. You want to work as a team, you want to work safe, and you want to do it fast and productive.
Very well put, Corey. I know your promotion was really only a few weeks ago, but have you got any thoughts or advice that you could maybe share with our listeners?
Yeah, Marty, as a matter of fact, I do. When your fellow employee needs you, take initiative, sacrifice, and volunteer, raise your hand. I mean, like I did, whenever my fellow employee needed me, I raised my hand. I volunteered. I went there when they needed me. And it just so happens that's where my promotion landed me, right there where they needed me. You never know, it might be your next promotion.
Outstanding and very well put, Corey. Thanks for visiting with us today and sharing your story with us, sir.
Thank you for having me, Marty.
We appreciate it, and maybe you'll let us ring you up again, check in on your progress down the road.
I'd really appreciate that, Marty. This has been an experience, and it's my first one, and I greatly appreciate you having me once again. Thank you.
Well, we look forward to that next visit as well, and I'd like to thank each of our listeners for catching our episode this week. I hope you're finding some value with our topics, and please email us with any suggestions or topics that you'd like to hear something about. And remember, we're having a great time with our Facebook and Twitter feeds too. You can find us there using the little @ WHSEANDOPS. Oh, and if you have a minute, check out the Facebook group Warehouse Equipment Operators Community. We're having a blast there too, and some great information is being shared. Have a great week ahead, and be sure you're following all your safety procedures, and we hope to hear from you again next week.